So in this video, we're going to solve quadratic equations by a new method, which is completing the square. And this new method is a universal method for solving the quadratic equations. It means if you cannot factor the trinomial part, you can always completing the square to solve the equation. Okay? So before we do completing the square, we have to have some basic knowledge. Okay. The first knowledge is if you have a perfect square look like this. Okay. So this is a perfect square. If you see a parenthesis, something in it, and outside you have a square, it's called perfect square. Here our equation look like this. A perfect square, x plus 5 square equals 64. And it asks you x equals what? So what are you gonna do? First, you have to take x plus 5 out. You have to set x free, right? So how are you going to do that? You have to get rid of the parentheses and get rid of the square, starting with the square, okay? So how can you get rid of the square? What is the opposite of square? We know it is square root, okay? So to get rid of the square, we give the square a square root. And whatever we do on one side of the equation, we do the same on the other side. So on the other side, on 64, we also give it a square root. And let's see what we're going to have. So square root and square kills each other. So square is gone. Okay? And you take x plus 5 out. You set it free. Okay? And on the other side, we have another knowledge to deal with. So square root of 64 equals what? Okay? So how are you going to deal with this? So you have to know square root of something means if inside of the square root you have two repeated numbers, you can take one out. Okay? So we know 64 is 8 times 8. Okay? And when you see two repeated numbers, take one out, which is 8. And both are gone, and nothing is left under the square root, so you don't need to bring the square root down. So square root of 64 equals 8. Or we also know what times what. Give you 64 or square root negative 8. Let me write it down. Times negative 8. Also give you positive 64. And here you see two repeated negative 8 is inside of the square root. So you know you can take one negative 8 out, and they're gone. So square root of 64 equals two results. One is positive 8, one is negative 8. So don't forget you always have a positive negative answer if you square root a positive number. Okay, so next time just remember you have a positive negative result. So you have two results here. Okay, and let me erase this. So here we get rid of the square and we set x plus 5 out, and it equals one result is positive 8, one result is negative 8. So we turn it into two little equations. One is x plus 5 equals positive 8. One is x plus 5 equals negative 8. And solve these two little equations, you're going to have two results. One is x equals negative 13. One is x equals 3. And that's it. Okay, so here you see what? You see if you have a perfect square equation, you can solve it. Right? So today our job is to create a perfect square so we can solve all kinds of quadratic equations. Okay. So if we don't have a perfect square on the left side, we're going to create it. That is today's job, right? So how are we going to create it? Okay, so here let's observe the characteristic of the perfect square. Okay, so here we have a perfect square. We're not summing it, but we're getting rid of the parentheses. So x plus 7 equals 2 parentheses times each other. X plus 7 times x plus 7. And keep getting rid of the parentheses. You're going to do the distribution 4 times. So x times x give you x squared. X times 7 give you 7x. And 7 times x give you positive 7x. 7 times 7 give you 49. Okay? And combine like terms in the middle. 7x plus 7x give you 14x. So x plus 7 squared equals this. And this is the middle step that is skipped. Okay? And let's observe the middle term, or the b. This is ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So let's observe the middle term. Okay? What is the relationship between the middle term and the number inside of the perfect square? Okay? The number inside of the perfect square is 1/2 of the middle term. Okay? And what is the relationship between the number inside of the perfect square and the single number on the back? So 7 squared equals 49. Okay, so this is the relationship. The number inside of the perfect square is 1/2 of b, and the number inside of the perfect square is c. Okay, so this is the relationship there. So next time, if you know the middle term, for example, it is 14, and you want to know what is the number on the back so that you can make a perfect square, you know it is 1/2 of b, then square it, right? We're going to see more examples here. Okay. So let's look at this example. Okay. So just look at here on the bottom. Here you have x squared plus 12x, and you want to know what single number on the back you create that can make a perfect square there. So what is the single number on the back? Let's write it down. We know the single number on the back is 1/2 of b squared. Okay. So what is your b? b is a middle term, which is positive 12. So it's 1/2 times, let me change the color, 12. Then square it. So 1/2 times 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So the number on the back is 36. You created it. Why do we want to create it? Because the three terms x squared plus 12x plus 36 can give you a perfect square. So how do I know that? Let's do a butterfly to check it to see if it equals x plus x squared. So let's do a butterfly here. So let me So here in the front term, you have imaginary 1. So 1 is, I'm going to write it right here, is 1 times 1. Let me get my pencil. So here 1 is 1 times 1. Okay? 36 is, positive 36 is 6 times 6. And let's check it to see if we can get the middle number. So 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Add them up is 12, which is what we want in the middle. So you can write your butterfly down. X in the first column, I'm gonna write it here. So it's x plus 6, another x positive 6. Okay? And we know two repeated numbers times together. It means you have a square. So it equals x plus 6 squared. So we made a perfect square here by creating a constant number on the back. How are you going to create it? The number on the back is 1/2 of b squared. Okay, so now let's look at a real example. Okay. So here you have an equation, it asks you to solve it, right? So x squared plus 12 equals 0. So how are you going to solve it? Actually, we have two ways to solve it, but let's solve it by completing the square. Okay? So here to complete the square, we need three parts: x squared, x, and a single number on the back. And we need to create a single number on the back that you can make a perfect square out of the three terms, right? So what is a single number on the back? Here, it is 1/2 of b, then give it a big square. Okay, so let's put our work here. Let me change the color. 1/2 of b. b is the middle term, which is positive 12. So 1/2 times 12 square equals 1/2 of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Okay. So here on the left side of the equation, we add a number on the back to make a three term. And don't forget, whatever you do on one side of the equation, you do exactly the same on the other side of the equation. So on the right side, you also plus 36, okay, to make the equation balanced, okay, in the second step. And then let's see if we have a perfect square. So here, let's do the butterfly again to see if we can get x plus 6. Actually, we just did it, right? This is 1, 1. 36 is 6 times 6. And check it. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Add up is 12, which is what we want in the middle. So you can write the butterfly down is x plus 6 times x plus 6, which is x plus 6 squared. And on the other side, 0 plus 36 is 36. Okay, so here you have a perfect square equation. Okay, this is how you get it. Okay. You create a single number to make a three-term trinomial and do the same on the other side. How are you going to create the single number? It is 1/2 of b squared. Okay. So now you have this perfect square, you can just keep solving it. First, get rid of the square to set x plus 6 free. How can you get rid of the square? You do the opposite, which is square root. So here, square root and the square kills each other. You take x plus 6 out. Okay? And on the other side, you also give it a square root. And remember, square root of a positive number equals positive negative 6. Because 6 times 6 is 36. Negative 6 times negative 6 is also 36. Okay? And you turn this into two little equations. One is x plus 6 equals positive 6. Okay? One is x plus 6 equals negative 6. And keep solving them. You're going to have these two little equations. And that's it. You can check it by plugging negative 12 in the equation to see if it equals 0. or plug 0 into the equation to see if it equals 0 to make sure they're really the solutions of the equation. Or you can also graph this equation in the decimals and see where the parabola touches x-axis, and where they touch is where your solutions are. You can check them yourself. Okay, and let's look at the next example. So the next one here, you see you have 3 terms already, and can you make a perfect square here? You just need to check the last number to see if it equals 1/2 of b square. So let's check it. 1/2 of b, which is 6, square should equals 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 square is 9. Should be 9, but here you have an 8. So this is a wrong number. It cannot give you a perfect square. So if it cannot, you're going to move it away and make a perfect square yourself. Okay? So first, move the single number to the other side. How can you move positive 8 to the other side? You're going to subtract it. So you're going to change the color. You're going to subtract 8 on both sides of the equal sign. So this is gone. And you have x squared plus 6x equals -8. What about I clean this up? Give me a second. I can't. I'm trying to clean up the work because it is a little bit confusing, but I cannot. So let's work on the original work. Okay, so let's write it down. So after getting rid of the 8, you have x squared plus 6x. On the other side, 0 minus 8 is -8. Okay, so you have this equation. And then on the left side, you want 3 parts, 3 terms to make a perfect square. So you need a single number on the back. So how are you going to look for the single number on the back here? It is 1/2 of b square. We just did it, right? So 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So here you add a 9 as the single number on the left. And whatever you do on one side, you do the same on the other side, still plus 9 here. Okay? So we're almost there. This is the next step, right? And now on the left side, you can make a perfect square. Okay? So do the butterfly. This is 1, 1. Positive 9 is 3 times 3. So it's x times 3 times, x plus 3 times x plus 3, which is x plus 3 squared. And on the other side, do the calculation. -8 plus 9 is 1. Okay? So you have a perfect square equation here in the note. Right? So now you can solve it. First, get rid of the square by giving both sides a square root. So the square and the square root kills each other. And you set x plus 3 free. And on the other side, square root of 1 equals 1, positive, negative. And you turn it into two little equations and solve them. And finally, you have two solutions. X equals 4, negative 4 or negative 2. And that's it. So for this question, at the beginning, move the single number to the other side and create a single number here. How are you going to create a single number? It's 1/2 of b squared. When you create it, on the left side, you can make a perfect square by doing the butterfly, and then keep solving the perfect square equation by giving both sides a square root and keep solving the two little equations. Okay. Okay, next one is a similar question. So let's do it. First, move the single number to the other side. Here you have negative 84. So plus 84 on both sides of the equal sign. So this is gone. And you have x squared plus 8x equals 84. And then on the left side, you want to create a single number in the third term place. Okay? How are you going to create it? It is, where do I write it? It is 1/2 of b squared. Okay, so what is your b? Your b is 8. So 1/2 of 8 is 1/2 of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So the single number you create is positive 16. So plus 16. And do the same on the other side of the equal sign. So plus 16 here. So this is where you get this next step. Okay. And now on the left side, do the butterfly and get your perfect square. So this is 1, 1. 16 is 4 times 4. So you have x positive 4 times x positive 4. And it's x plus 4 square equals, on the other side, do the calculation. 84 plus 16 is 100. Okay? So now you have a perfect square equation to solve. So get rid of the square by giving both sides a square root. So square root and square kills each other. You set x plus 4 free out. Equals 100 is 10 times 10, so it's 10, positive, negative. And turn it into two little equations and keep solving. And you have your two solutions. So for the next example, first step, get rid of the single number on the back by adding 12. Do the same on the other side, because this is gone. And you have x squared minus 2x blank equals 0 plus 12 is 12. Okay? So what number are we going to create on the blank part? It is 1/2 of b squared. What is your b? It's negative 2. So it's 1/2 times negative 2 squared. 1/2 times negative 2 is negative 1 squared, which is positive 1. So the number we created is positive 1. But just be careful. If you have a negative number, square it. You have to give it a parenthesis. Then you have a positive result. Okay? So plus 1 on both sides. That is how you get the next step. So now on the left side, you can do the butterfly. This is 1, 1. Positive 1 is what times what, so you can get a negative 2 in the middle. Positive 1 is negative 1 times negative 1. Because negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. So you have x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is x minus 1 squared, equals, on the other side, add up the two numbers is 13. Okay, so you have the next perfect square equation. Then for the perfect square, get rid of the square by giving both sides a square root. So the square root and the square cancel each other. So you take the inside out, which is x minus 1 equals square root of 13. So for 13, you cannot find two repeated numbers times each other give you 13. So nothing you can do here. It's just the square root of 13, but give it a positive and negative. Yeah. And then here it just give you the result, but how do we get it? So turn it into two little equations. One is x minus 1 equals positive square root of 13. One is x minus 1 equals negative square root of 13. And keep solving it. Get rid of the minus 1 by plus. So I have x equals positive 1 positive square root of 13. Or plus 1 for the second equation also. I have x equals positive 1 negative square root of 13. So I have x equals positive 1 plus or minus square root of 13. That is how you get this result. Okay. And now let's look at the steps of solving this equation. So far, what we have done. First, move the constant to the other side. Okay. Move the single number, which is a constant, to the other side. Next, make the set with the variables a perfect square by adding a certain number. So make the set with this variable, which is the left side, a perfect square by adding a number on the back, adding a third term here. So how are you going to get the third term? Divide b by 2 over 1/2 of b, which means divide by b by 2, right? And then square it. So it's 1/2 of b squared. Okay? So to create the last number, which is 1/2 of b squared, right? And then take the square root of both sides and solve the equation. So when you have a perfect square equation, give both sides a square root and keep solving the equation. Okay, so now let's do some practice. The first one, you already have a perfect square equation. So to solve it, just need to give both sides a square root. And the square root kills square. So you set the inside out equals 91 is square root of 9 times 9. So you have positive 9 over square root of negative 9 times negative 1, 9. So you have negative 9. Okay, and turn it into two little equations. Here we don't have the two little equations, so let's write it down. First is x plus 21 equals positive 9. Second is x plus 21 equals negative 9. And keep solving them like this, you're going to have your two solutions. Okay. Next one, you have a perfect square equation already. So do the same like the first example. And you have the solutions. Okay. Next one. Here you have x squared. you have x. And you want to create a single number on the back that can make a perfect square. So what is a single number on the back? It is 1/2 of b squared. And is 1/2. B is positive 24 squared. This is not, yes, this is good. 1/2 of 24 is 12 squared, which gives you 144. And that's D. Next, you have the first term, the last single number, you have it. And you want to know what is the middle number, right? We don't know what is the middle number, but we know the last number comes from the middle number, which is 1/2. My pencil is out of power again. Okay, which is 1. Okay, let me see what happened. Give me a second. Which is 1/2 of b. This time b is k, right? So 1/2 of k equals, 1/2 of k squared equals 121. Okay, and you want to get rid of the square by giving both sides a square root. So you have 1/2 of k equals positive or negative. 121 is 11 times 11. Okay? So positive or negative 11. Okay? And got rid of the 1/2 by multiplying both sides with 2. Right? So this is gone. So I have k equals positive or negative. 11 times 2 is 22. So k can be 22 or k can be negative 22. Since our option only have 22, so you choose 22. Okay, this is not a good explanation, I think. Okay, next one. So here you have this equation and you already have the single number on the other side. So you don't need to move it, right? So you just need to create a last term here. Okay? So how are we going to create it? Is 1/2 of b, which is negative 12 square. Okay? 1/2 times negative 12 is negative 6 square, which is positive 36. Okay? So this is plus 36. Do the same on the other side, plus 36. So that is how you get the next step. Right? And here on the left side, you can turn it to a perfect square. This is 1 times 1. Positive 36 is negative 6 times negative 6. Because you want a negative 12 in the middle. Okay, so you have x minus 6 times x minus 6. Which is x minus 6 square equals, on the other side, add up the two numbers, which is 49. So I have this new step. Okay. The explanation escaped this step. Okay. And then you have the perfect square equation. Get rid of the square by giving both sides a square root. and keep solving it. So you have C. Okay. Next, so I have this equation, and the single number is on the wrong side, so move it to the other side first. But -9 on both sides. So this is gone. So you have x squared plus 16x equals -9. And then on the left side, you want to add a single number, which is 1/2 of b squared, which is b is 16. So 1/2 of 16 squared, which is 64. So the blank is plus 64. That is how you get this step. Okay, and from here, do the butterfly on the left side. 1. 64 is positive 8 times positive 8 because you want a positive 16 in the middle. So it's x plus 8, x plus 8, which is x plus 8 squared equals, on the other side, add up the two numbers is 55. Okay? So I have this perfect square equation and give both sides a square root. And 55, you cannot turn it into two repeated numbers. So it's just equal square root of 65 and keep solving it. Okay. So that's it about completing the square. The key is 1/2 of b. You create it in the last constant term. So you can butterfly it into a perfect square. Okay.